All right, so next day, we've got the strings off the Eastman. We've got the nice ebony neck fretboard here, and quite a deep saddle slot too. And I've pulled out the saddle, and as I was mentioning yesterday, see, this has already got some channels cut here to help the string angle coming back off the saddle. All right, so we're going to, well, sanding the saddle down can take a long time, so what we're going to try and do is find a replacement. Now, the other thing to realize about the guitar, so the string starts here over the saddle, comes all the way up to the nut, so that's your scale length, which for a Martin type guitar is 25.4 inches, and of course the middle point is the 12th fret, so that's where you get your harmonic. So the string between the neck to there and to the bridge is exactly equal. And so in terms of getting your action down to 6/64 inches here at the 12th fret, for every 1/64 you need to reduce here in height, you're going to need to take 2/64 off the saddle. Now the reason is, if you think about it, the string's coming all the way from here to here, and halfway, it's going to be halfway down as towards the nut. So that's just the basic rule of thumb. So to be honest, to get a little bit of, to lower your action here at the 12th fret, you've got to take off a surprising amount of saddle here. So this is where, if your neck has lifted up, as this guitar is doing already, you very rapidly run out of saddle height to play with. And of course, once the saddle gets too low, as I was saying in my video yesterday, you start to get into trouble with the guitar just not being very loud, because you're barely putting any downward force on the top. Okay, so this is the saddle I pulled out of the Eastman, and here are some contenders here, which I'm going to slot in, and hopefully that'll save me having to spend all my time filing this saddle down, which I do using this, and I also use sandpaper. But the other thing about that is you want to put a mask on, because the bone dust can get, well, certainly irritates my nose when I do that. It's not good for your lungs either. Okay, so this one, E20SS, this is another Eastman I owned. This was how low the saddle got before I sold that one, an E20SS. Lovely guitar, but similar issue. There was not much saddle height left. I'm not sure what that one's from, but we'll see how we go with those. So the rule for putting saddles in here, or the advice is, you don't want them to be loose, but you don't want them to be tight. They don't want to be sticking inside the slot. So let's see how this one goes. See, that's pretty good. That's in. But let's have a look at that. It's very low. I have a feeling when I put my strings on, the action at the 12th fret's going to be great. But you can see here, it's hard to see. I often notice this, but it doesn't. In the video, it's hard to actually get a feel for the height. So when you're selling guitars too, to be honest, the saddles don't look as low as they really are. But I'm just putting my string gauge here, and so that second line is 8, if you can see that. There. So it's less than 8/64 high here. So we'll see how we go with that, but yeah. Now, I don't know if this is a kosher luthier thing, but I just got a little bit of olive oil, and I've just painted it onto this fretboard. And ebony is so dense that you barely think it's wood, you know. But certainly with rosewood, that often drinks up a fair bit of oil. And I've just put this on the ebony, just in case it's a bit dry, you know. And I'm going to give it about half an hour. I'm just going to give that a good old rub off with a cloth, and so that'll moisturise the wood. And I've done that on the bridge as well. This is part of the TLC. All right, so I've I used my Eastman cloth to polish up the neck. I wiped it off with a bit of paper and polished up the fretboard. Put on the new strings, which are the EJ16s, 10 to 53. And I dropped in that saddle, as I showed you before. It's really low. As I say, it's hard on the video cameras tend to make them look higher than they are, but there it is. And I was right about the height. I'm going to show you that now. So I've strung this up to concert pitch, and let's check the measure. Where are we? So I don't know if we're going to get the camera in to do this. However, I will tell you, I haven't got it down to 6/64. I've got it on just a smidge over on that reading there. And on the high E, it is also 6. Now, what I've realised is I probably could have taken the high E side of this saddle down a little bit more, so I could potentially do that, because that can afford to be a bit lower. And look, what I will do is I'm going to adjust the truss rod as well. And of course, normally you need a nice bit of relief, but you can get your action down a little bit if you tighten your truss rod a touch. All right, so yeah, just I'm going to show you how I'm going to check the action. So I'm fretting fret 1, and I put my thumb on the very last fret, and then I just stretch forward and just tapping that. You can see what the relief is of the neck, which is the curve, and that's and you can see here there's a little bit of play there. And you try the top one. Now there's very little relief on that one. So as is often the case, the relief on the neck on the low side is more than the upper side, which is great because you do need more relief for the big strings that are vibrating more. Okay, so here's the Eastman truss rod out the Allen key. So let's put that in and see how we go. Now, I know probably it's best practice to take tension off the strings when you do this job. Okay, so I just had trouble getting that Allen key engaged. There it is, it's in. Now, you don't just want to turn the Allen key when you've got your full string tension on. So what I'm going to do is hold this and just pull this back. Okay, so I'm bracing the guitar with my heel of my arm, pulling that back so so I can actually literally pull the neck back, and I'm going to turn the Allen key about that much, not much at all. So I mean, the other thing is, you don't have to try this at home if you don't want to, but the trick is you're not going to be turning this like a screwdriver. It's really literally just an eighth of a turn. And in a way, by having it between the strings, that limits how far you want to go. You don't want to overdo the truss rod. It's quite a fine setting. And then I'm going to check this again. Okay, it hasn't tightened it up much, so I might go a little bit more. But, this is the thing. You don't need to overdo this stuff. I've got to find the right place to get that in. Here we go. One more time. There we go. Intonation's very good. okay. And we're just going to measure the height. Look, that doesn't seem to have made much difference, but it's just, I can see the line of the 6/64 just sitting there under the E string here. Look, that's quite acceptable, you know, and if you're a big heavy strummer, you know, that's a fine action. So there it is, but that's the story of the Eastman. And I just checked in terms of how old this guitar is. I got it in July this year, so I'm doing this video in December, so less than 6 months. And as you can see, I've had to do the 2 adjustments, and we're down to a very low amount of saddle, and still a beautiful guitar, but you know, I mean, it's a little bit disappointing, to be honest.